Non-destructive design techniques are something that allow you to maintain the editable aspect of your images even after you have closed your file and all the history is gone. So I'm going to start off with one of the most important ones, which is using smart objects. And to create a smart object, it's very easy. Whatever artwork you might have, it could be on layers or it could be an entire folder. So you can right click on the folder or on the layer that your artwork is on and simply click on convert to smart object, and basically that will give it a little icon that looks like this, and you can always come back and edit this smart object by double clicking this little thumbnail, and now you'll notice that all the layers are still available and can be edited separately. Uh, the reason you want to convert your design elements into smart objects is mainly if you resize something, you'll notice that it'll be able to maintain all the pixel data. So this top one, it's just a folder with a bunch of raster layers, not a smart object. So I'm going to resize this down. I press Control T to bring up the transform tool with the anchor points, and now I'm just holding down Shift to reduce the size while maintaining the aspect ratio. And if you also hold on Alt, it reduces the size by doing it towards the anchor point, which is in this case in the middle. You can move the anchor point anyway, and the image will reduce its size towards the anchor point. So anyways, let's reduce the size of this one all the way down here. And now I'm going to select the one that is my smart object. So I'm going to hold down I'm going to hold down Control while clicking on this one, and that selects whatever layer the object is on. You can try this with the other one, but the other one is separate layer, so it'll select whatever layer I've clicked on. This one is a smart object, so it selects the entire layer by holding down Control and clicking. So if I reduce the size of this one all the way down, or you can actually type this in the panel up here, click on the chain link to maintain aspect ratio, and let's type it in. Let's say bring it down to 5% and press enter. The numlock enter on your keyboard will exit out from the tool. So now we can try to bring them back. Let's say you wanted it in a really small size somewhere, and now you're thinking that I made a mistake and I want it to be bigger again. You'll notice that the smart object maintains all of its pixel data. In fact, you can block the chain here and type it in back to 100% size. But if we try to do the same with the non-smart object version, bring it back up, you'll notice it's a big mess. So another good use of smart objects is that you can have multiple instances of it and then be able to edit all of them at the same time. So if I hold down Alt while dragging on a layer on the stage, it makes a copy of that. Just hold down Alt. So I'll just make one copy here just to show you guys editing multiple smart objects. So to edit this smart object, I'm going to click on the thumbnail image, double click on it, and now you're inside the smart object. And you'll notice that all of my layers in here are also smart objects. So I've maintained the editability of each one of these elements separately. So I'll double click on this suitcase smart object and go further inside there. And now I've got a bunch of stickers on separate layers. So what I'll do is I'll select this sticker, control click, and I'll hold down Alt while dragging it, and that's given me a copy of it. And now I'll press Control T to bring up the transform tool, right click inside the transformation area, and I will pick one of these options. I'll say flip it horizontally, and I'll rotate it a bit, put it around here, and I'll save this. So it'll only update outside of the smart object once you save it. So press Control S, and now you'll notice it's appeared over here, but it's still not in the main. So we can close this one. Control W is the shortcut to close your workspace. And now I'll save this one. It's appeared here, and then I can close this one. Control W to close your window. And now you'll notice it's updated in both the instances of the smart object. This can really come in handy when working with textures and you want to edit multiple instances of the texture. Now we're going to try to clean up this line art while using non-destructive design techniques, which means it maintains the editable option of your image at any time. So we're not going to actually be deleting or erasing the main artwork, because we want to have the original artwork just the way it was and be able to come back to it at any point, even after you save and close the file. So let's start off with duplicating our work. So I'll right click on the background, click on duplicate layer. I'll call it line art, and I'm going to delete my background or empty it out. So I'm going to fill it in with the white. Control backspace is the shortcut to fill with whatever color you have in the background. And I'm going to go to my channels while I have my line art layer selected, and I'll click on the load channel as selection button, which is the first button on the left. And what I want to do is invert this selection. I don't want to delete anything here because I want to preserve the original image at all times. So what I want to do, I'll use the marquee tool, and while I have the marquee tool selected and the selection going on, I'll right click inside the selection and click on select inverse. Now this is selecting only the line art. So I'll go back to my layers, and what I want to do is click on the masking button, which is the third button from the left here. It says add layer mask when you hover over it. So I'll click this, and what this does is masks out everything that was not inside the selection. So I'll just add some color underneath here. I'll make a new layer underneath and add some color to show you what's happened. So I'll select my brush tool and add some color in here. Let's select a better brush. So I'll add some color in here, and you can see that the image already has some transparency without having to delete anything. But there's still some rough areas around here. So instead of editing the original image, I'm going to edit the mask here. So by clicking on the thumbnail of the mask and not the image, so double click, just click it and Control L to bring up the levels. So we'll be changing the brightness and darkness of the mask itself. So you'll notice what happens. It's actually bringing back the image, and now it's reducing the image. So I'll fine tune this until I've got majority of the dust cleared out here. I'll move the gray arrow a bit to reduce the amount of grays. Move the black arrow a little bit. And now I think I've got an image clean enough without having to erase the original image. If you want to go back to your original image at any time, you can simply delete your mask by clicking and dragging it into the recycle bin, or you can hold down Shift and click on it to turn it off, to turn the visibility of the mask off, and compare with your original image. And now we can also actually color our lines. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer above my line art layer. Right click and set it as create clipping mask. Oops. I'll select a different color so it's visible. So you'll notice you still have all the same functionality without having to delete or erase anything. So I'll come back down to the color layer here. I'm going to fill the whole thing with a solid color. Now this is a technique that some people like to use, but I don't find it to be very, well, let's just say it's very destructive. So a lot of the time people will use this preserve transparent pixels button and then simply fill in their highlights and shading on the same layer, which is not very good, because if you want to come back and edit your original color, it won't really work for you because it'll be editing everything that's on that layer. So let's not do that. Instead, I'm going to use a new layer and set it as clipping mask. So I'm going to right click and click on create clipping mask, and I'm going to add my new color on this layer. The reason you want to do it this way is, of course, to preserve the editability of your layer at any time. So what I'm going to do is I'll create another layer above here. So this is my main color layer. And this is going to be my editable color layer. What I'll do is I'll create a new layer. I'll go to layer, a new fill layer, and solid color, and click OK. So what I have now is a layer which I can edit the color of at any time by simply double clicking on the thumbnail and selecting a different color, as opposed to having to pick a paintbrush and then recoloring it. This will make it editable at any point. And then the shading layer that I made with all my shading, I'll change the color of this by double clicking in the empty area of the layer here, clicking on color overlay, and I'll select a different color from here. Click OK, OK. By doing it with this method, it's basically preservability. So if I turn it off, turn the visibility of your effect off by clicking the little eye symbol here, you'll notice that you can still see the original work. And you can also turn off your editable color layer, and now you've got your original color still showing without changing it forever. But if you want to be able to save this, let's say you wanted 2 different versions and you want to send this file to somebody to work on, you can save the different stages by using layer comps. You can bring the layer comps window up by going to Windows and layer comps. So when you have the file in a good stage, which is the final state that you want to show, you click on the create new layer comp button and give it a name. So I'll call it option 1, checkmark visibility, position, and appearance in case you want to move stuff to different places. And I'll click OK. And now I will make the effect visible and the editable color visible, and I'll make a new layer comp. I'll call it option 2. Click OK. And now you can save and close the file, and every time you open it and go to the layer comps, you will still be able to switch back and forth between your different options. If you're just using history, the history gets deleted every time you close the file, so you won't be able to quickly switch back and forth between your options. But layer comps is great for this kind of thing. If you have a ton of different layers, you've got different website pages designed inside the same file, you can show different layers by turning them on and off and saving that as different layers. So as different layer comps. So let's say I want one option to not show any color at all. So I'll turn off the colors of my line art and my main file, my main color layer, and I'll save that as another layer comp, and I'll call it option 3. Excuse me. So you'll be able to switch back and forth between any of these at any time. Now here's a pattern. I've got it already set as a smart object, which you do simply by right-clicking and clicking on Create Smart Object. And what I'm going to do is put it in the corner here. If it's not snapping to the corner, click on Control Shift semicolon on your keyboard, and you'll notice that it starts snapping to the edge when you come close to the edge. So now I will hold down Alt while dragging it, and that's given me a copy of it. And now I will click on Control Shift and click on the previous one, and now I've got both of them selected. I'll hold down Alt again and drag it. Now I've got a copy of these. Hold down Control and Shift and click on the previous two. Again, now you've got all 4 selected. Hold down Alt, drag it over. Now you've got a couple of instances of this. So if I want to be able to update all of these at the same time, except for, let's say, this one in the middle, I'll control click to select that. So I'll say that I want this one to remain as a smart object but not be affected by edits that I make to all the ones around it. So I'll right click and click on New Smart Object via Copy. So click on that, and I'll delete the old one underneath. Now this one is a new copy which won't be affected by anything that you do to the other one. So I'll go inside one of these smart objects just by double clicking on the thumbnail, and I will change its brightness contrast. If you simply change the brightness contrast of the image by going to Image, Adjustment, Brightness Contrast, then it's not editable at all afterwards. It's there forever. But you want it to be editable, so what we'll do is instead go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and I'll do the brightness contrast through here. In the new versions, this has an entire panel for itself to create adjustment layers. And now you'll see what happened is actually there's a new layer with the effect on it. You can remove the effect or edit it at any point by simply double clicking on the effect while still maintaining your original image underneath. So now we've got the same functionality of doing it the other way, except we can access it at any point and change its settings. Let's apply another one. Let's go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and let's apply Hue Saturation. And I'll change the hue of this. Click OK. And the edits won't appear in your original file until you save it. So I'll save it, Control S. It'll take a few seconds to update all the instances, and everything is updated except for the copy that we made, which was duplicate new smart object via copy. Now this one over here, I've already got the mask going on it. The mask is basically cutting out the white areas around the image. Let me put some. Let me put another image underneath it, just so it's visible what's happening. Let's put that right here. And now I want to be able to change the color, apply some effects and filters to my Gundam image. So what I'll do is I'll go to layer, new adjustment layer, hue saturation, as opposed to going to image adjustment, hue saturation, because this will preserve whatever you do and allow you to change it later on. So you'll notice what's happening is, let's make him look like Optimus Prime. So you'll notice what's happening is that your effect is also changing the image that's underneath, because we're masking off all this area. It's showing the image underneath, and even that is getting affected by it. So what we want to do is right click and click on create clipping mask, so it's only affecting the image that's right below it. And now you can turn it on and off, or go back to it and edit the colors at any point of this Optimus Prime Gundam, and you'll still be maintaining your original image. Also, I'm going to turn this into a smart object. So I'll click on the layer with my image, right click, convert to smart object. And now I will be able to apply filters as well while maintaining the original image. Normally, if you apply filters to your image, like the artistic filters, your image is totally messed up. If you saved and closed the file, you can't come back and edit it. But if your image is a smart object and you apply filters to it, like let's say the let's do the palette knife. So let's say we applied this kind of a filter to it. It's still maintaining our hue saturation that we did on top in the layers. And if you drop down this little new arrow, you'll notice that now your filters are all smart filters, and you can edit them at any time by clicking on the name of a filter, going back into the settings of it, updating the filter, click OK, and it's changed it. So this has preserved the editability of your filter without messing up your original image. You can turn the filters off simply by clicking on the little eye symbol, and you'll notice that your original image is still preserved. If you want to edit your original image, you'll have to go inside the smart object, double click on the little thumbnail, and now you're on the original image. If you wanted to get rid of a part, like let's say we didn't want these blades on top of the helmet anymore, instead of erasing it, I'm going to select my mask layer, grab a paintbrush with the black color selected, and simply start drawing on the mask, and that starts cutting the stuff. Now what's great about using this is that you can bring stuff back. So if I use the white color, it brings stuff back, which is something that you can't really do if you erased something and saved and closed your file. You're not going to be able to unerase it because your history is all gone. But with a mask, you can always select the opposite color. Black is going to erase it, white is going to bring it back. And you can always come back and fix these edits. So I'm going to save it. Control W to close out of the smart object, and it's made the update in my original file. So let's say we want to add effects such as burn and dodge. if I have my image set as a smart object, you'll notice that you won't be able to actually use burn or dodge tool because they're more like brushes, and you can't really paint on a smart object. So what we'll do is create a similar kind of effect with a new layer with the brush tool instead of the burn and dodge tool. So I'll make a new layer over here. I'll call it burn. I'll make another one and call it dodge. If you want these to apply only to one layer, you can select both of them, right click and click on create clipping mask so that they only affect the one layer. But if you want them to affect the entire document, you can just release the clipping mask or just keep the layers by themselves. So you want to set the transparency of both of these layers to overlay. So click on the drop down menu here, set this to overlay. I'll click the other layer, set that to overlay as well. And on the burn tool, on the burn layer, we'll use the paintbrush set to black color. I'll use a soft round brush and set the opacity down to maybe something between 10 and 20%, and simply start painting with it. Depending on how strong or weak your opacity of your brush is, you can really fine-tune the burn effect in this manner while still preserving the original image underneath. So you can remove this layer at any time and go back to your original image without destroying the original image forever. And for the dodge layer, we'll switch to the white color. Pressing X on your keyboard will quickly switch you back and forth between your foreground and background color. And on the dodge layer, I'll use the white color, and you'll see it creates the similar effect that you can get with the dodge tool while still preserving the original image. Here's an extra tip. This isn't really a non-destructive design technique, but more of just a little shortcut to pick colors while you're using your paintbrush tool. Some people don't know about this, but while you have your brush tool selected, you can pick any color out of your existing artwork by holding down Alt and clicking on an existing color. So you don't have to constantly keep going back to the color picker over here, but instead hold down Alt and click on the color that you would like, and you can get the exact same color again. In fact, you can use this to mix and match and make your own color palette as well. Let's say we use a soft round brush. I'll grab the color from here, and I'll get the brown from here. And if we zoom in here, you can pick any one of these colors out of these pixels by holding down Alt and simply clicking on that, and now you've actually picked up that color and you can use it anywhere.